Mussolini.
Hello?
Ah,
Hello, is that a Duce? Oh,
yes.
hello, Duce. This is a journalist from the Daily Record. I would like to ask you a question, if I
Yes?
may. Yes, I understand that you are in Great Britain during this
Yes,
summer.
I'm in Winston Churchill's residence, yes, of course.
Oh, okay, great. And given the fact that you're staying at Mr. Churchill's
Mm-hmm.
residence, I would like to have your thoughts on the ongoing riots in the
Yes,
UK.
of course. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Duce. Thank
Thank you,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank
My dear friend, first of all, let me thank you for your question. I'm here for a short period in Great Britain. Guest of the great Winston Churchill. And then I am to go to see another friend, Oswald Mosley. The two of them, in a way, shaped my life. Especially Winston, who used to write me almost every day. And now has put me in a small room, in a small chamber, not as a form of punishment, but because he's refurbishing his house. And I think he wants to save money on the bills, but that's another story, and we'll not get into that. We're speaking about what is happening in Great Britain right now, and I must say, while I was here, I watched the particular instrument that you call television aghast. Usually I and Winston look at the radio. We're people that come from another time, so just look at the radio, listening to the news, sometimes commenting. He laughs with his cigar in his mouth. How horrible. But this time I was watching TV, and like I said, I was shocked. The images, cars burned, riots in the streets, violence against innocent citizens. And I turned to Winston Churchill and I said, "Look, Winston, look at what is happening in France." And then he told me it was Great Britain. And I was shocked twice, because I thought that was Paris. I did not imagine it was a normal British town, and I understand these protests, and I'm going to call them protests, not riots, have spread like wildfire in the whole of the United Kingdom. I would not like to speak about what are British internal affairs, but I do see in this event a pattern of similar events that are taking place all over Europe. And I'm therefore going to speak about that as leader of the Italian National Fertility Party, a party which I had the honor to found. The only party in Europe, let me remind me, everybody has to remind, in a way, remember, sorry. The only party in Europe, as I was saying, that has put at the first place the problem of the fertility rates in Europe, and in Italy in particular, my home country. I'm going to analyze the events that are taking place in Britain, therefore, in a Europe-wide perspective, trying not to be sucked in by what is the internal politics of the UK. However, I must say that I was quite touched by the speech given today by your Prime Minister, Starmy, forgot his name. Winston?
Yes, Benito.
Ah, Winston, ecco, sei arrivato. Sì,
Yes,
scusa,
Benito.
non mi ricordo come si chiama il vostro primo ministro.
Listen, what are we
Come?
going to eat for breakfast, Benito? Breakfast.
Va bene, Winston, cosa mangiamo a colazione
I
oggi?
suggest baked beans.
Sì. Baked beans.
Yes.
Va bene, siamo contenti. Sì. Poi stasera concerto, eh?
What?
No.
What kind of concert?
E ci siamo
I do
capiti.
not
Vabbè, non
understand.
perdiamo tempo, Winston, che sto parlando al pubblico britannico.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Allora, come si chiama il vostro ministro? Stormer.
Keir Starmer.
Come?
Starmer.
Stalin.
No, it's not
Lo
Stalin,
chiamiamo
it's
Stalin.
Starmer.
Non importa, Winston.
Right,
Vai,
all
ti
right.
chiamo. Sì, ti chiamo, non ti preoccupare.
Talk to you
Vai
later.
pure, Winston. E chiudi la porta. Stalin, your prime minister. Keir Stalin. The new Stalin, not the old one. The old one, at least, had a sense of humor. But this one doesn't matter. Your Prime Minister, Stalin. I was touched by his speech when he said that they will not allow any protest or demonstration of this kind in the UK. You want to demonstrate? Not on Stalin's watch, baby. What a strong man. Had it been the old Stalin, he would have put secret agents on the streets, starting fires, damaging cars in order to gain the complete power in his hands. But he's the new Stalin. He's not going to do that. He's just going to imprison everybody who disagrees with him. And if the situation will get out of hand, he will deport them to Rwanda. Huh? They better see that. He's going to deport them into internment camp in Rwanda. Yeah? So they get used to the new Britain. Stalin. You don't play with Stalin. Anyway, sorry, I digressed. Anyway, I was touched by Keir Stalin's speech when he said that all of these people protesting belong to the far right. What a joke. Haha, that's funny. I must say, I saw in that an easy way out for the problems that are weighing over Great Britain and Europe as a whole. Labeling, it's easy. But the deep political analysis and to be able to perceive from the crowd what is a sincere political message, it is difficult. And it is a form of art in itself. As Aristotle used to say, politics is the greatest form of art. So in the case of Stalin, since he doesn't like the political message which is conveyed by these protests, he labels people as being far right. I don't think they're far right. I know what the far right is like. I got experience in that matter. The question is not if these people are far right. The question is if these people are far wrong. And I dare say they're not. I dare say that the majority of these people is genuinely fed up with what is happening in the UK and Europe at large. I therefore would not consider them far right, but rather just right, or not far wrong. Differently from the far left, which Stalins represent, the new one, not the old one, who tends to label people and laugh in their faces when they express a sincere need for a political change. But let me explain what is happening in Europe right now. These protests were triggered by an event, but lurking behind these protests is a problem of the lack of control of borders in the whole European continent. And a country does not exist if it does not control its borders. I dare say the issue is not even immigration, but rather the control of the borders. And I dare say that there are obscure forces, dark forces that are pushing towards this agenda of uncontrolled immigration in Europe. I'm going to call these forces the forces of the men of Davos, or, using a Polynesian legend, the men on boats, and I will explain that later. As you know, my party, the National Fertility Party, is in favor of the Brexit and has tied up an alliance with the party of François Asselineau in France, the Frexit Party, and has extended a friendly end to the party of Nigel Farage, the Brexit Party. Brexit, Frexit, and Brexit together to change Europe. However, our idea is very different from the one of Brexit, and even the one of Frexit. Because behind our idea, there is not the idea that Italy can make it on its own, but rather the idea of destroying the European Union to give birth to a new Europe, which is not a nation, but a civilization, united by its Greek, Roman, and Christian past. From there, the word Brexit. Because if somebody comes inside your house and starts shouting, starts giving orders, starts telling you what to do, you kindly open the door and you kick this person in the butt out of your house. And therefore, the idea of Brexit is not that Italy shall leave Brussels, but that Brussels shall get out of Europe. And our idea is very concrete. Freeze all European bureaucrats at an average temperature of minus 35 degrees and put them in the North Pole in a hole 2 kilometers deep in order to free Europe from what is a totalitarian scheme that wants to transform Europe in the soft version of the Soviet Union. A body that Stalin used to like, the old one, not the new one. Although the new one likes the ideas of the old one, it seems to me, but that non importa. È un altro discorso. Non divaghiamo. In any case, I was saying, freeze all European bureaucrats at a temperature of minus 35 degrees, put them in the North Pole, in order to free Europe, which is a civilization, and also in order to help cryogenic technology. We're doing this for humanitarian causes as well, in order to help the scientific research in the field of cryotechnology and launch humanity into the discovery of space. For I am sure that on planet Mars there is life, c'è vita su Marte, ne sono sicuro. And therefore, every year we're going to launch a spaceship with a couple of European bureaucrats, frozen, at minus 35, have them landing on planet Mars, defrost them with a gentle microwave touch, and open the spaceship to see whether they'll be able to breathe. We're going to start, of course, with Ursula von der Crazy, who's been elected once again an enemy of Europe, this great civilization. So let me explain what is happening in Europe, in all the countries, whether it is France, or whether it is Italy, or whether it is Great Britain, because even after Brexit, we don't cease to be united geographically. Today, you can riot in London, hop on a train, and in 1 hour be in the center of Paris, and riot in Paris, to be back in London and riot again. How funny. So what is it that is happening in Europe today? Sì.
Benito, can you come
Sì,
for a
Winston,
second?
cosa c'è adesso?
Benito, you have to see my painting.
Scusa, sto parlando,
You have to
Winston.
see my painting. Give my painting a title.
Cosa hai...
Benito,
sì. Hai dipinto il quadro.
don't be a naughty boy. Can I come and see my painting?
Devo vedere il quadro e dargli un titolo.
Come and see my painting.
Senti Winston, no, ma ascolta, sto parlando, ma senti, ma senti.
Oh, come on, Benito, you know a lot when you give
Va bene,
titles to
Winston.
my
Allora,
painting.
facciamo in fretta che poi... Sì, devo ritornare subito. I'm sorry. I'll be back soon.
Thank you very much, Benito.
Dai, Winston. Yes. I'm back, sorry. Sorry about that.
Did you like the painting, Benito?
Sì, era bello il quadro, sì, sì. Io lo chiamerei Abominio.
What?
Abominio.
What does it
No,
mean?
non lo so tradurre. Abominio.
I don't understand, Benito.
Te lo traduco dopo. Puoi chiudere la porta?
All right. All right.
Chiudi la porta, Winston.
Yes.
Grazie.
Yes.
Sorry, I was saying, sorry. So what is happening in Europe right now? What is happening is very easy. No matter who you vote, the situation doesn't change. And let me start with the European Union first. However, I think the same can be said of Britain. The electorate, the electors, are simply called to vote for the next person who's driving the train. But the train is a train. The railways are laid down. The train is following the same direction, which cannot be changed. And no matter who the driver of the train is, that direction will not change. That is the situation of Europe right now. So it doesn't matter whether you vote the left, which I call pseudo-left, or the right, which I call pseudo-right. The train is going towards the same direction. Who has set that direction? The men of Davos, the financial plutocracy of the West, mostly based in the United States of America, who has decided that all European nations have to be destroyed in order to create a Moloch, which is the soft version of the of the Soviet Union. You see, the two of them are identical, I get confused. That is the plan behind the European Union. To create, therefore, a supranational state, which will overcome all national states in order to serve the will of the men of Davos or the men of the boats. Now, who are these men of Davos? Let me use this Polynesian legend. The Polynesian legend goes like this. There are two types of men, the men of the trees and the men of the boats. The men of the trees are rooted in their land. They love their families. They love their country. They love their culture. Whereas the men of the boats do not stay in one place and they're not rooted to any country or any culture whatsoever. These men, the men of the boats, have 3 or 4 passports. These men, the men of the boats, are at ease in New York, London, or Paris, not belonging to any country whatsoever. And these men, the men of the boats, think they are like the nobility of the Middle Ages, whereas the only important thing was to gain territory and prizes and so on and so forth, living off their servants, enslaved as men of the land or men of the trees. And therefore, it is not by chance that in almost all West European countries, the people running the countries are bankers. I'm speaking about the great Mario Draghi in Italy, our savior, the equivalent to Jesus for somebody. I'm speaking about President Macron in France, the son of Rothschild, philosophically, of course. I'm speaking about Sunak, for example, in Great Britain. However, these men not only want to control government, but they also want to control the opposition. And therefore, any kind of opposition which is not controlled by them is discarded as industrial waste, as it is happening right now under the watch of Stalin. Not on Stalin's watch, baby. He's going to deport you all to Rwanda. Now you see. In any case, sorry, digressing. So therefore, the European Union has become a totalitarian Moloch which is basically led by this financial plutocracy and the so-called globalists, the men of the boat, with the sole aim of destroying this civilization called Europe. But there is another Europe, and that's a Europe we want. The National Fertility Party, the Italian National Fertility Party. A Europe of diversity. A Europe which goes back to the same James Wolk. A Europe of the cathedrals, as General Charles de Gaulle used to say, opposed to the Europe of the stock markets. This is the Europe that we want. And our intention is to destroy the European Union. As simple as that. Not to pull out from it. And I go right now speaking about Brexit and what happened in Britain. Now, the illusion in June 2016 was that by voting out of Europe, Britain was going to be a sovereign nation capable of basically swimming in the ocean of this troubled world by itself. But that's not the case, as you can see. Why are these immigrants arriving on the coast of Britain? Well, because they arrive on the coast of Italy, my country. And the person running Italy right now, and I speak about the Prime Minister, Giorgia col melone, Georgia with the melon, is nothing more than another driver on the same train, which is driving on the same railways, going towards the same direction. As a matter of fact, she's a great fan of NATO. Under her watch, we had the greatest number of illegal immigrants entering Italy ever. I think it's the second record yearly. And the problems she was supposed to solve are not solved at all. It's the same old music played with other instruments. So we get an average in Italy of 1,000 new illegal immigrants on our coast every day. And people are complaining in Britain if they get 1,000 a week. You're going to get more. Make no mistake. If we're not united in this problem will not be solved. And let me explain what is happening in the European Union so that you understand and you do not have the temptation to rejoin it again. And I'm going to explain what the mistake was in Brexit in 2016. All immigration in the European Union is handled by the European Union under a treaty. This treaty is called the Amsterdam Treaty, ratified in 1997, voted in 1998 by the all different member countries, and then put in effect in 1999. Under this treaty, all immigration policies are decided by a commissar of the European Union. A friend of Stalin, the new one, not the old one. Under this treaty, the intention of the European Union is to increase the number of legal migrants that arrive in the continent. This year, we had 3,200,000 legal migrants arriving in Europe, but the intention of the European Union is to bring this number up to 4 million migrants a year. That is to say, the whole population of Great Britain will be replaced within 15 years. And I speak about the legal migrants. In my country, Italy, Giorgia col melone has legalized the position of 400,000 immigrants just last year. So there is a will to increase the migrant population of Europe. And why is that? Because of the low fertility rate of all the countries that compose the European Union. Now, the sole exception to this plan is given by the countries that belong to the Eastern Bloc, for they know very well what this plan is about, and they can recognize the soft version of the Soviet Union, given the fact they were part of the Soviet Union in the past. Now, speaking, of course, about Slovakia, Czech Republic, Poland, and most of all of Hungary, who's doing its best to resist this evil plan. I must say that Mr. Orban is a hero. A hero. Alone against this evil plan to change the demography of Europe. Four million immigrants per year. So forget about the illegal. I'm talking about the legal ones. And whoever dares to challenge this plan is labeled as far right, is scorned, is made fun of. Because defending your cultural heritage and your historical past has become a sin. The new man must be an atomic man, devoid of family bonds, devoid of bonds with his land, a consumer. So as you can see, there is a plan behind this, a plan which has been designed by the plutocratic financial globalist elite running the West, especially America. But there are a few men who are against this plan. And although Stalin, the new one, not the old one, doesn't like it, will make their voice heard. So, what was the problem with Brexit in 2016?
Benito, sorry. How do you write that?
Sì,
How do you write that?
scusa, sto parlando.
How do you,
non puoi abbiamo,
abominio?
te
How
l'ho
do
già
you write
detto,
it?
sì, abominio.
Yes. Can you, yeah, can you
Abominio.
spell it? Yes.
Oh mio Dio.
How do you? Oh, come on, Benito. Right.
Allora,
yes.
A,
A,
va bene,
yes.
B, O, M come Milano, I come India, ti ricordi l'India? Sì? N,
What, can
I,
you spell
O.
it in English, please?
Non te lo faccio lo spell in inglese, non te lo
spell it
faccio,
in English,
l'hai ficcato
please.
nella cameretta, non te lo
Oh my
faccio lo
God,
spell in
Benito,
inglese.
come and
mi
write it
dispiace.
down on a piece of
C'è il
paper,
braccino
would you?
corto, c'è il
What-
e non
what
me la
are you
raccontare che
saying?
vuoi risparmiare soldi, l'ho capito?
No,
No,
I don't want to save money, Benito.
No,
Listen.
no, c'è il braccino corto, c'è il braccino corto.
Funny.
Te lo
What are
dico,
you saying?
tu non sei inglese, tu sei scozzese.
I'm not Scottish,
No, non mi
I'm
fa...
English.
No.
I'm not Scottish.
A Natale ti regalo una bella cornamusa,
Yeah,
così ti
yes,
sfoghi.
come and write it.
Va
Come
bene?
and write it down, please, on a piece of paper. That's all
Vabbè,
I ask.
e
Right.
te lo scrivo,
Yes,
te lo
yes.
scrivo.
All right. I have it on my
Yes.
piece of paper. Lovely stuff.
Chiudi la porta, grazie.
Yes, close the door. Bye-bye.
Got me confused, adesso mi ha confuso e mi confondo e non riesco più a parlare. Comunque, di cosa sta... la Brexit, scusate, la Brexit, yes. So what was the mistake of Brexit in 2016? The mistake was that Brexit could have been an opportunity to create a new Europe. But however, the people who devised this plan, Brexit, did not care about continental Europe at all. They lived under the illusion that even if continental Europe sunk, Great Britain could have survived nonetheless. And this is the result. Although I'm sure that under Stalin's watch, the new one, not the old one, the situation would be brought under control. You don't mess with Stalin. You see what he's going to do. Freedom of speech. Far right. Cretinate, ma lasciamo perdere. Scusate, perdo poi il controllo. So I was saying that was the illusion of Brexit. Whereas François Asselineau with his Frexit, but most of all, my party, the Italian National Fertility Party, has an idea for Europe. The Europe of the St. James Walk. The Europe of diversity. A confederation, not a federation. Recalling what has been written by the great philosopher Immanuel Kant in Königsberg, today's Kaliningrad, in his book For a Perpetual Peace, written in 1792. And I invite you all to read that book. I find quite ironic that Great Britain pulled out of the European Union, rightly, without having any plan for Europe as a whole. Why do I find it ironic? Because my friend, Sir Oswald Mosley, in case you don't know it, was the first person who actually founded a pan-European national party. Europe, a nation. Because the idea of a united Europe does not stem from the left, but it stems from the right. The so-called far right. Or people who are not far wrong, but maybe they're just right. And don't you find it ironic that from Britain itself, the idea of the united Europe came, and at the same time was Britain that destroyed not the European Union, which deserves to be destroyed, but the idea of a new Europe. A Europe of the cathedrals, like Charles de Gaulle used to say. A Europe of the nations. Let me say, and I'm going to say this from the bottom of my heart, I consider Great Britain as part of Europe, of this Europe. A civilization thousands of years old that goes from Lisbon to Vladivostok and includes Russia as well, like it or not. What we're reaping is we're reaping the fruits of the folly of a bunch of individuals, the men of the boat, the men of Davos, who are now intent of provoking a world war, because these problems, as Stalin rightly knows, not the old one, the new one, can be solved with a nice war. However, I am convinced that Stalin, the new one, not the old one, has a heart. I've seen it myself next to an old British lady passing the winter with an electric blanket, without money for food, without money to pay for her bills, a person who paid taxes for all of her life. And then suddenly a man comes from a boat and is given a hotel room and an old mobile phone, and I've seen Stalin myself giving this man a new mobile phone. No, con quello vecchio cosa ci fa? And he cried. I saw a tear. Because Stalin has a heart, remember. The new one, not the old one. In any case, personally, I'm not a big fan of Stalin. You gotta understand that. I have a past, so to speak. I didn't like Sunak as well, if you ask me. However, I liked Boris Johnson. It was fun. He organized nice parties, especially during COVID. Le feste di Boris. Altro che bunga bunga di Berlusconi. Che feste. I know. Bojo. Vabbè. So, this is my thought about what is happening in the UK right now. However, I am sure that under Stalin's watch, the situation will be solved. As you can see, in the span of 4 weeks, Stalin created a bit of a trouble. Wait 4 years. It's gonna be fun. Don't worry. And having said that, I thank you all. I'm now going to see my friend Winston Churchill. giving a look at his latest painting and probably going to have a heart attack. In any case, from the bottom of my heart to all the British people, viva la Gran Bretagna e viva l'Italia!